Welcome to the 45th edition of Cool Tools. If you followed this series for what's been the better part of a decade, you know I've shown you some really interesting stuff that I use in my workshop. Things that'll make your shop time a lot better. And this episode is no exception. You're really not going to believe some of the things you're going to see. Game-changing, mind-blowing, use whatever cliche you want. This might be the best episode I've ever done. So I'm not going to waste your time. There are links below to everything I'm going to show you. Get on them quick, because a lot of the stuff I show on Cool Tools disappears as soon as people find out about it. But let's get started. I'm always on the lookout for budget options to help everyday woodworkers who watch this show up their game without breaking the bank. And the Milescraft Tracksaw guide has really gotten my attention. I've used various straight edges and clamp-on guides for circular saws over the years, and some of them work pretty well. But this is the closest thing to an actual high-dollar track saw I've ever found, and it costs a fraction of the price. These are legit aluminum tracks. You get two of them, each 27.5 inches long, so they're easier to transport and store than the standard big 55-inch tracks that the other brands make. But when you combine them together, they add up to the same 55 inches. And more can be added to extend your cutting capacity. What makes this truly different from other circular saw-based systems is the high-quality aluminum saw plate. This places your saw right on the wide track instead of next to it, which eliminates the offset issue that comes with other systems, and it truly transforms your saw that you already own into a real track saw. The track can be laid right along your cut line, and the cut will be precise and crisp thanks to the fiber-supporting strip along the edge. The plate runs smoothly in the track, and the guides can be adjusted to absolutely zero play within the grooves. If you remove the plate because you want to use your saw for something else once in a while, you can remount it quickly and precisely thanks to the cleverly designed quick alignment jig. The rails can be clamped down if you want, and believe it or not, the clamps are included instead of costing an extra 20 or 30 bucks each. But I found the non-slip strips on the back were perfectly fine for keeping the track in place wherever I wanted to cut. And as you can see, it even works with my compact cordless circular saw. They say it should work with just about any saw except worm drives. I can't speak to that, but it worked with all the saws that I have in my shop. The best part is the whole kit with the plate, the rails, and even the clamps costs less than other brands charge for a single short piece of track. And you don't have to buy a $400 to $600 saw to go with it. The downsides? Well, the rails are only compatible with this system, so don't think you're going to grab these Milescraft accessories and add to a track saw from another company. I also don't use it for beveled cuts because a circular saw doesn't tilt the same way as a regular track saw, so the blade wouldn't align with the edge of the track in an angled position. But for breaking down plywood sheets cleanly and with table saw-like precision, it is definitely worth checking out. You just may save yourself a lot of money. I'll put a link below this video. This next Cool Tools is simple, functional, and frankly, indispensable. It's a two-piece square set that looks a lot like those fancy red versions that you see hanging on walls behind YouTubers. But these are about $100 less expensive for the set, and I think they're actually better. They're high-quality, precisely ground anodized aluminum with clean and clear etch scales. Of course, they can be used for project assembly and for machine setup. I often use mine to square and set the height of my saw blade or my router table. But they're far more than just tri-squares. These are extremely versatile layout tools. Sure, I can mark a line 90 degrees to an edge, but I can also pivot the tool on its heel and utilize the scale to lay out lines at precise angles. And when I say precise, I mean it because there's an onboard alignment pin that can be slipped into one of the 5 locating holes to ensure you nail your most common angles dead on. That's something that's unique to this set. There are also precisely placed holes along the scale at 1/16 inch increments for scribing lines parallel to an edge with a mechanical pencil, and the results are dead on. The base is designed with 3/8 and 1/4 inch offsets for laying out tenons, lap joints, or just finding the center of 3/4 inch stock. These are really full of clever little surprises. And did I mention they cost more along the range of what the red ones should cost? I have the 2-piece set with 4-inch and 6-inch versions, plus a free mechanical pencil because iGaging does cool things like that. But they do come individually, And they even have metric versions for the other half of our viewers. Check them out at the link below before they're sold out. Every once in a while I find a tool that seems too good to be true. My experience with wood Auger bits began when I saw this Instagram video that compared blowout when boring holes with various bits. Now I admit a test like this isn't really fair to any bit. He's using a lot of pressure and the thin veneer on that plywood is going to blow out no matter what you use. Or so I thought. The wood Auger bits cut cleanly despite being set up for the same failure. How is that possible? I've used bits of all types in all sorts of price ranges and I've never seen anything perform like that. So I tried them myself. Here's a standard spade bit. I'm not surprised at the results because I'm pushing hard and I'm demanding more than anyone should from a large bit. But here's the wood Auger bit with the same odds stacked against it. The difference is startling. Now I'm not going to throw away all my Forstner bits and switch to these for fine woodworking, but I got a small set of 3 common sizes, the 1 inch, 3/4, and 5/8. They're called their overdrive bits and they're intended for fast boring on jobs like building, remodeling, plumbing, electrical work, anytime you need a clean hole with minimal effort. In fact, they claim to be so efficient that they'll extend your drill's battery life by as much as 35%. And after using them, I can see why. They chew through wood like an animal. They should call these wood beavers or tyrannosauruses instead of wood owls. If there's a downside to them, I haven't found it yet. Try a set and see for yourself. I'll put a link below this video. For years, I've been using a simple little scraper for glue and other crud, and whenever I show it on camera, people always ask me about it. Well, that original one was blue, but it seemed to have walked away a few months ago. So I grabbed a couple of inexpensive yellow ones off Amazon to replace it, and they work wonderfully too. They aren't complicated. They're just scrapers. I use them for glue most of the time, but they can also scrape wood to even out seams and reduce sanding, or for paint, rust, adhesive, pretty much anything that needs scraping. I have 2 of them. One is just over 1 inch wide and has a double-edged blade. The other is 1.5 inches wide and has a 4-edged blade. Either way, the blades last forever because they don't have to be razor sharp to work. In fact, I don't think I ever replaced the blade on my last one. I might have touched it up with a file a time or two, but it's just a workhorse and it's almost dirt cheap. Every shop should have a couple of these. I'll put a link below. Grab them while they're still available. It'll be the best $5 you've spent in a long time. Here's another tool that I've used for many years. In fact, it's one of the best tools I think that I've ever had on this show. So if you haven't seen it before, you're going to want to pay close attention. It's the perfect accessory for resawing boards on the bandsaw. I love it because it's so fast and easy to set up. There's a cam on the bottom that goes into your miter slot. As you angle the tool towards you, it self-secures in that slot. Then you slide the handle forward to apply pressure against your workpiece. I like to push it just in front of the end of the board so it will fold back when I advance the cut. There's a locking lever on top and it's ready to cut. As you can see, the large rubber feather applies firm, even pressure, keeping the body flat against my fence and keeping my cut very consistent. If I'm taking multiple slices from a single board, it is so fast and easy to readjust and keep right on going. You can add an optional 4-inch extension for extra wide boards, and the rubber-like material conforms to variations in shape and thickness, so it's really versatile. They also added a couple of extra features, like a removable base that can be used to square your fence and measure its distance from the blade. There are a lot of gimmicky bandsaw accessories out there, but this one has made a real difference in my shop. We've used it for many resaw projects, and I would not want to be without it. I'll link to the guide pro below so you can check it out.